Welcome back to Round the Cauldron. I'm Megan, here to shed light on Wicca from a modern perspective. This podcast is produced every Monday, sometimes educational, sometimes philosophical, and always honest. Remember to follow the show on social media. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Round the Cauldron, on Twitter at Round the Cauldron without the D, and at my website roundthecauldron.com. You can also help support the show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/roundthecauldron. There, you can pledge as little as $1 a month to get patron-only perks. Don't forget to check out my shop as well at roundthecauldron.com/shop to see the tarot readings and crochet items that I offer. So head on over to Patreon at patreon.com/roundthecauldron and join me for as little as $1 a month. If you can't pledge anything or you don't want to, that's 100% okay. I would also just appreciate if you shared the show with your friends, family, and whoever else you think would listen. That helps me out too. Are you ready to hop into today's topic? Grab some coffee, pull up a seat, and join me around the cauldron. Before we get started today, I have a quick announcement. I am running a sale on my year ahead tarot reading over in my shop. This tarot reading is very extensive. It takes a look at every month of 2020 in detail, as well as a general feel for how 2020 is going to play out. It is normally $75, but it is on sale for $40 right now, and that sale is going to run from today. What is today? September 16th? Let me check. Yeah. So that is going to run from September 16th all the way through Samhain, October 31st. So make sure you check that out. Also, my shop updated on Friday the 13th. And so I have all kinds of new crochet items. I have a couple new tarot readings available. So make sure you head on over to roundthecauldron.com/shop to check that out. If you want to be notified anytime my shop updates, you can sign up for my newsletter. The newsletter goes out every full moon, which also is when my shop updates. But the newsletter will give you a sort of sneak peek at what is being added to the shop about 30 minutes before all of the new additions go live. If you don't want to sign up for my newsletter, it's totally fine. You can get updates on my shop through following me on social media, through Facebook and Instagram. Sometimes on Twitter. Twitter is not my social media of choice, but I am there. So yeah, go ahead and check out my shop too if you're interested in that. If you do sign up for my newsletter, you get a special coupon code just for signing up for my newsletter. So check that out. I think I had it set at 15% off. I don't remember, but the coupon codes are good for items and stuff that are on sale too. So check that out as well. So today I wanted to take the time to really talk about why learning new things are important. If you're someone who has been studying witchcraft or Wicca on your own, it can be a bit of a conundrum. If you're with a tradition or a coven, it might not really apply to you in the way that you think. So why is it important to keep learning even when you think that you've learned everything possible? Well, that's because your craft, however you practice, is an ever-evolving creature on its own. It isn't naturally stagnant. It has its own energy and its own driving force that you really help to create. So when you stop learning and you stop developing spiritually, your craft can become stagnant. This can lead to a lack of practice, a lack of motivation in your craft, maybe even a spiritual crisis because you sort of don't know where to go from where you are. Now, please keep in mind that the things that I'm saying are naturally going to be more difficult If you have any form of mental illness or disorder, I'll talk about that too, but the lack of motivation that I mean here comes specifically from stagnation in your craft and your education, not from any other outside force that can impact how you learn and move forward in your life. Now, learning new things can be difficult, especially as an adult or as someone who has to learn on their own. For those of us that this applies to, we have to teach ourselves, with the occasional help of our guides, any spirits that we work with, any gods that we worship or revere. So where do you start? That's always the biggest question is, I want to learn all of these things, right? But I have no idea where to start. Where's the beginning? And I'm currently in the process of learning new things too. So all of these apply to me as well. And let me tell you, I have a heck of a time learning new things. I'll use myself as an example here. There's so many things that I want to learn. I want to learn more about astrology. I want to learn more about herbs and flowers and spices and their magical uses. I want to learn more about meditation and astral travel. My problem is that I have such a hard time focusing on the things that I'm doing, and I have a difficult time retaining information. Now, I'm someone who did amazing in a school setting. I was essentially forced to sit down, read the textbook, do the homework, do the problems, take notes, memorize the material. But as I've gotten older, my focus is just really disappearing, and my memory sucks. Like, it's just gone down the drain. I don't know. I mean, I'm only 27 right now, so it shouldn't be that bad. But for some reason, it is. And it makes learning new things a difficult process. I'm also someone who is easily distracted, and without a structured setting, it's hard for me to sit down and learn new things. But I'm going to pass on some tips that I've learned over time, as well as tips that others have given to me. Firstly, take advantage of those around you who are willing to share their knowledge with you. Now, this doesn't mean to get on Twitter or Facebook and demand that people teach you. That's absolutely not what I mean. Other people do not have an obligation to teach you new things just because you tell them to, or just because you ask. What I mean is like what I did. So if you follow me on Twitter, you probably saw this, but I'll put a screenshot up here of my tweet in the video. For podcast listeners, this is what it says. I know that a lot of herbs have magical correspondences and uses, but who decides those and how? I haven't done a lot of work with herbs, flowers, spices, and I'm attempting to learn and research, but my brain needs reasons for the correlations. Help? And this is true. Out of all of my years practicing Wicca, I was always stuck in stagnation because I didn't know where else to go and what to learn or do next. But you can see here in my tweet, I didn't demand anything. I didn't demand anyone help me. I didn't demand information. I asked for help, and I included hashtags that would make sure that my tweet got in front of the people who would be able to answer the question. I got several answers, and I replied to each one. I let them know that I was grateful for their help and their guidance, and that I was thankful that they took time out of their day to answer my question. They didn't have to do that, but they did, and I appreciate it. That is how you take advantage of the community around you and the knowledge that others may have. You don't demand, you ask. And you be grateful and gracious for the answers you receive. Use the internet too, but you need to be careful with the information you find on the internet. I did a podcast episode about the importance of critical thinking, and I will link I'll link that in the description in the show notes. For those watching on YouTube, the podcast is available as a video, but it's not like an actual video. It's more of an image with the audio behind it. So I'll link that up here somewhere. But one of my biggest pet peeves about researching on the internet is trying to sort through all of the information and figure out what is valid information, what information is accurate, and no one seems to cite their sources, and that bugs the crap out of me. Just today I was scrolling through Twitter and someone had posted tips for witches on a budget, and it was like clear quartz can be used in place of any crystal, roses can be used in place of any flower, white can be used in place of any other color, and something else. And then someone that I follow actually retweeted it with a source from Scott Cunningham. I mean, how freaking hard is it to cite the site where you get your information from? Now, this is going to be different if the information that you are using and that you're writing about is coming from UPG, which is unverifiable personal gnosis. I think I said that right. I don't know. I'll put information for that in the show notes and description as well. That is something that's completely different, and I will probably do an episode on UPG and SPG, but I don't have time to do that today. So when no sources or explanations are given for whatever it is that I'm reading and is being passed off as fact, I really tend to brush off the author and the website that I'm getting the information from. If they don't say where they're getting their information, how can I trust that the information that they've given is accurate to the best of their knowledge? So use your common sense when researching online. Take note of the websites that you use, and don't just use one. Part of doing research is cross-referencing from one site versus another. If you're researching something that can be viewed from an academic perspective, are you using academic sources? Make sure your sources are reliable, but don't just take those sources for their word either. Someone on Twitter, thanks Michelle, pointed out that depending on your tradition or your beliefs, the plants that you use in your practice, they have their own energy. They have their own sense of being. And if you're just going off of academic research or what other people say are correspondences for that specific plant, and you're not asking the plant itself, then you're not doing your due diligence. Because part of my belief anyway is that yes, those plants and those living things do have their own energy, and if I ask and I listen close enough, then I should be able to hear from the source itself what it is good at and what it is not good at. That when doing research would be something that falls under UPG or SPG. And again, I will link more about those things in the description in the show notes. But you really need to make sure that you are doing your due diligence, covering every base that can be covered before you really come to a conclusion. And don't forget about books. As witches and pagans and Wiccans, we love our books, right? It's one of the first sources that made this information readily available to the public, besides word of mouth. So if you have access to a library or if you have the ability to purchase books, use it. Take advantage of the library as a free resource to an unlimited amount of knowledge at your fingertips. If you aren't familiar with your local library or how to use the call numbers and their sorting system, ask, because I'm pretty sure any librarian worth their salt would be very happy to help you figure out how to use the library. That's what they do. I mean, the librarian will be more than happy to show you around the library, help you get comfortable, help you find what it is that you're looking for, help you figure out how to use their system to find what keywords or subjects or specific authors or call numbers. If you've never used a library, it can be overwhelming. So ask for help. That's what they are there for, okay? And also with books, start as small as you can or as small as you're comfortable with. Don't start immediately by getting this humongous 1,000-page book full of information that you wouldn't possibly be able to retain in the amount of time that you can typically check books out from a library. Sometimes it's 1 week. My library here is 3 weeks. But start small. Don't overwhelm yourself with information, So Michelle told me again too on Twitter. I will link to her Twitter in the show notes in the description. Great person to follow. I definitely recommend following them. I think I said her. I'm not sure what their pronouns are, so I'll use them. But a good place to start for the different correspondences and identifying plants and stuff in your local area is a field guide. And I have no experience with any of this, so I never would have thought about that. My first thought was like getting a really big book on herbs and how to figure out what's what and just go from there. But getting a field guide for my local area would be much easier because it's going to be much smaller and more specific to what's around me so that I can actively practice what it is that I'm trying to learn. That's perfect. Now you also want to keep in mind that books are not infallible. Books can have inaccurate information in them too. So don't just read one book and be done with it. I think this is my problem with how easy it is to self-publish your own books. One of my favorite things to do is go through Kindle Unlimited, because I have Kindle Unlimited as part of my Amazon Prime, and find books on Wicca and witchcraft and read them and give book reviews on them, because these are the kinds of books that are readily available. Even if you don't have Amazon Prime, Kindle Unlimited is typically only $10 a month, and it's very easy to get a free trial. A free trial lasts for 30 days. So with Kindle, you can really take your books wherever you go without fear of somebody finding out what you're reading, because it can be on your phone, your tablet, your computer, or if you actually have a Kindle. And these books are full of crap. They are full of crap information, inaccurate information, no sources. And these are the books that are readily available to anybody that has Kindle Unlimited. Even after that, if you have a Kindle, most of the time these books are only 99 cents if you don't have Kindle Unlimited. And you shouldn't waste your time with these crappy books. And it shows how important it is to use your critical thinking skills regarding what it is that you're researching and reading, because it's super important. Because the people that don't know any better read these books and take these books as fact and then pass that information along to other people who don't know what they're talking about, and then they pass it off as fact, and it just keeps going and going and going, and eventually you have a bunch of people who read this one book who believe that Aphrodite is a war goddess. But Megan, you might say, what do I even learn? You know, I know the god and goddess of Wicca, I know the Greek gods, I know Celtic deities, I know the ritual framework, I know the Sabbath dates, their stories, their purpose in my faith, I know how to cast a circle. Well, that's great if you're happy where you are. But I'm willing to bet that you're not. That you're not happy staying there in that stagnation. So I'm going to throw some science at you here really quick. Newton's first law of motion says that in an inertial frame of reference, an object either remains at rest or continues to move at a constant velocity unless acted upon by a force. So that's just a fancy way of saying that an object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by something that will slow it down or stop it. Stagnation is that force. Complacency is that force. Your spiritual growth is the object in motion in the situation. There's so much out there to learn, and not all of it is going to be for the sake of putting it to use in your practice. Sometimes it's good to learn new things for the sake of learning, because you know what it does? It can give you a new perspective. It can spark new ideas. It can spark a feeling in you that you need to explore. It can make you a well-rounded, better educated witch. So what do you learn? First, you should probably ask yourself what sort of things you're interested in. You can learn about divination. You can learn about herbs and spices and flowers. I mean, just in divination alone, if you look at the Wikipedia page for divination, there's like more than 20 different forms of divination and so-called fortune telling. So I mean, there's tarot, rune casting, tea leaf reading, pendulums, you name it. There's probably a way to divine the future from it. I think there's even a form of divination that uses birds in the sky flying in their patterns or something. You can learn about astrology, different gods and goddesses and pantheons and their culture, different traditions, different forms of smoke cleansings, consecrations, crystals, whatever. You know, the list just can go on and on and on and on. So pick a subject, dive into it, don't get overwhelmed, take good notes, and practice what you've learned. Now, I'm a firm believer that learning should never stop. Stimulating the brain, the senses, your spiritual mind, it's all essential to good spiritual growth. But what if you're like me? What if you're like me and you have difficulty learning new things for any reason? So for us, that just means it'll be a little harder to learn a new subject and really retain the information. This is why I advocate for taking good notes. And notes for me might be different than notes for you. Some people are pen and paper, some people can take notes on their computer or on their phone. It doesn't matter. Find a note-taking method that works for you. Now, a lack of concentration is a symptom of at least 2 of the mental illnesses that I've been diagnosed with. So I just have to work a bit harder to learn new things and retain information. Like my cat is playing outside on the patio and the trees are moving and I can see through the window and it just keeps catching my eye and I just keep wanting to look look over in that direction. And it's part of the reason why I write such detailed notes for my episodes, and that sometimes I even script them, because I have difficulty concentrating. I have a difficulty focusing. I dissociate a lot. I lose my train of thought. I get easily distracted. So you just find what works for you and just roll with it. if you're like me and you have difficulty learning new things for any reason, just take it slow. You don't need to learn absolutely everything about a specific subject all at once. Take notes in a way that works for you, and experiment with that. If you can't learn by looking at a computer screen, I have a lot of trouble doing that. I'm a very tactile person. I prefer to have a book in my hand, or paper, or something that I can touch. Reading a computer screen and working behind a computer screen to take notes is very hard for me. So I am a pen and paper person. If you're like that, use books. Print out any information that you want to read, articles, informational websites, things like that. Make sure you recycle the paper that you use. Listen to audiobooks or watch YouTube videos or listen to podcasts. Really find what works for you and experiment with it. Now, if you need someone to bounce ideas off of, or to act as a sounding board, or just someone to talk to about what it is that you're learning, I'm here. Send me an email, leave a comment, send me a message. I will try to be as helpful as I can. And I'm sure there is something that we could all learn from each other. That's what I'm here for. So never stop learning. Keep your passions alive. And until next time, everyone. Bye.